The difference between my last record and this one in terms of how it was made is I had a whole new team. I wasn't working with my previous collaborator anymore, and we had such a system together that, you know, he was really responsible for the creative. So suddenly I found myself having to do a lot of things, you know, make a lot of decisions creatively myself. And, you know, that takes a long time. Well, in Georgia, in my home country, polyphonic singing and choir singing is taken really seriously. And every single town has a choir. So everyone, you know, pays a great deal of attention to it, and it's deemed as a very respectful thing.
Be afraid. Should I be afraid?
So I hadn't actually heard the Gory Women's Choir because there's so many choirs in Georgia. I actually came across them on Spotify in England, and I was just blown away by their power and their precision. I'd never heard vocals sound like that, especially choral vocals. And now Georgia is a really small country. We have a 5 million population, and everyone knows everyone. So it didn't take too long for me to track down the phone number for Teona, the choir conductor. I had a vision of my parallel life if I had stayed in Georgia. And I thought, because of the patriarchal society, because of the conservative society, that it would just be to become a mother, to become a housewife, you know, because that's what all the women around me did back in Georgia. I had a reaction against it, so I called myself a feminist in my 20s. But having made this album, and having met and worked with the choir, and having seen how they approach art and creativity, now I realise that my vision of my parallel life, had I stayed in Georgia, is really too black and white. So I remember living in Georgia and looking at the music that came out of the West, so listening to Queen and Led Zeppelin, and thinking literally thinking that London must be heaven on earth. You know, this place where this music is made. You know, and of course, I now live in London, you know, and it's definitely not just heavenly. I mean, there are certainly incredible parts. But I think once you reach somewhere and it becomes part of your reality, you do stop seeing the beauty of it as much as you did before you were there. But what's wonderful is when you do go back from place to place, when you come and when you go, you start to see the magic in it again. It's really strange how, even if you kind of don't believe in the sort of the exoticness of getting married and having a dress and, you know, all that, but when it actually happens to you, this sort of girl comes out. Well, it did in me, and I turned into a proper sort of princess, and it was like, where did that come from? Sometimes I rib him and I joke about the fact that I'd love to just have the wedding day again. I feel really lucky to still be, you know, asked to come here to Switzerland, that the audience is still interested in what I'm doing. What I loved and I find fascinating is there is something special about Switzerland. I mean, Zermatt's amazing. I love the Montreux Jazz Festival. Also, the festivals here are done so well. One of my favourite poets, Rilke, wrote one of his greatest works in Switzerland, so there's something pretty cool in the air here.